The top 10 Xbox Game Pass horror games when you're looking for something spooky, scary, and unsettling to terrify you in the night, or during the day, I guess. These are the games for you. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. First off, we have Resident Evil 2, which is a great remake of the classic Resident Evil experience, where you are attempting to survive the dark terrors of Raccoon City with different perspective options as you play through it, where you will be shooting the undead, stabbing them, or trying to really just mostly evade them while you solve puzzles, figure out what exactly is going on, and deal with familiar and new faces along the way in one terrifying night where things just seem to progressively get worse as you really do just attempt to make heads or tails of what exactly your situation is and the terrors that you'll find along the way. It's very well done and a great reset for this classic and well-loved game. Just like with Dead Space 2, which is also FPS boosted, which is awesome. This is a gripping, dark, more action-packed sequel for Dead Space, where our heroic engineer is having to deal with yet another breakout of sorts, where the monsters, necromorphs, have returned, and you are basically just attempting to survive while figuring out what exactly is going on within this new situation. There will be terrors, there will be horrors, you will be haunted from your past. Things that have really been causing problems for you in the long term are actually coming around again, and you will be basically just attempting to survive while dealing with an onslaught of monsters, creatures, and other problems that will literally try to dismantle you. Well, I think you'll try to dismantle them first, you know what I'm saying, but Dead Space 2, pretty well loved, a very good horror game, and always one that is a lot of fun to enjoy. Just like with Diablo 4, which, while not as traditionally scary, I suppose, as other things, there are some really deep, unsettling, cinematic moments and terror areas. Diablo is dark, it is horror, it is crazy, but it's also a lot of fun. It's a lot of grinding enemies, a lot of smashing through various dungeons and other places, and battling in a shared multiplayer universe with giant boss monsters, or different seasonal events, or regular random events going on, a gripping story that is rather, again, grim, dark, and it is neat to have Diablo return more to its roots with this particular entry, where it is very, very just unsettling and messed up. It's a very dark landscape. It's filled to the brim with the violence and the gore that you cause as you basically go on your crusade of sorts in order to deal with Lilith. It's a great game and a lot of fun together. Just like the fun you have together in Dead by Daylight. So this is an asymmetrical multiplayer experience where on one hand you are choosing to play as a group of survivors, there's 4 of you, and on the other hand choosing to play as the one killer. So basically it's a 4v1 situation. The survivors, they are attempting to turn on a selection of generators across the variety of different maps with a great selection of unique characters and horror icons from films to games. So we got things like Resident Evil, or maybe you'll come across Michael Myers, for just a couple of the examples for the many characters that are present here. And then the killers, their perspective, well, they're just trying to kill the survivors that are attempting to escape and survive. So pretty straightforward. It's a lot of fun. It's a great celebration of spooky things, and thematically it fits in beautifully well with an incredible roster of IP here. If you're looking for something new, we have The Quarry, which is a narrative-driven, light interaction game where you're more or less watching a movie, as to say, but making choices and, in general, decisions that will impact the survival of your group of individuals, counselor-type characters that have been thrown into this really messy situation. You will be choosing things and paths that will directly impact how lively they are, but also the degree of perhaps an injury or the scenario of what's going to happen or the relationships along the way. It's an interesting story that's decently lengthy with some interesting performances, and the paths you choose will impact the overall scope of what happens in the narrative. There's a lot of splintered paths and ways and things to happen, and yeah, it's got a nice spooky atmosphere. It's a fun, easygoing time, and it really does dive deep into horror like you would hope it would. Just like we get a little bit of a psychological horror experience here with Prey. Watch out for things that might be trying to mimic you. Haha. You're out here in space, or at least maybe you think you are. I don't know, everything is confusing. What is happening? What's going on? It's kind of along the lines of, say, BioShock, in terms of kind of the gameplay. You're making your way through this station where you will have to deal with a situation that has arisen, where things have gone really badly for those that were working here. You're going to have to figure out the mysteries and also try to survive against a variety of hostile enemies that take all kinds of shapes and forms and will challenge and threaten you in different unique ways, which is rather exciting. If you're looking for something a little bit different and something a little bit exciting, and if you missed out on this one, it is quite a treat to dive into for sure. Just like the treat of Still Wakes the Deep, which is another narrative-driven, light interaction game. This is about a group of workers that are working on a rig, an oil rig, and you drill, you try to help out society by gathering materials to make money for the overlords. You have a troubled past. You've gone on here basically to make some money, and things start going really badly. And there are some genuinely unsettling, grotesque moments in this one. I would compare it to, say, The Thing. It's fairly fun. It's not terribly long to work through. And I actually had a fairly enjoyable time with this game, and I found it to be quite neat. I would maybe recommend not reading into it too much, same with like Prey or Quarry, but this definitely was an intriguing, different type of horror game. Just like where you get some action going on in Doom 3, which is a classic entry in the series that does, I believe, focus on the spooky, scary elements of it. Dark rooms, hidden corridors, all kinds of demonic monsters for you to blast, shoot, and destroy along the way as you attempt to deal with a outbreak of demonic forces upon this Mars station. Good luck, soldier. It's definitely a little bit different from the previous Doom entries. There's a lot of fun little hidden things and things you can unlock and items that you can collect and gather, and I thought this one had a very nice visual style to it, and it was always a lot of fun for me. And I think it does kind of hit that spooky aspect pretty well of being something that is unsettling while still having some of those gnarly action-packed moments that you sort of expect from the Doom franchise. I think Doom 3 is quite excellent personally. And I also really like the fun of The Evil Within, which you can play the first one, and there's also a sequel too, so that's kind of exciting. But yeah, this is one of those, you're trying to figure out what exactly is going on. You gotta burn the bodies. But there's all these creatures and everything like that, and the whole world is very messed up, and it's very spooky and horrific, and filled with little surprises and twists and turns. And yeah, it's quite an interesting narrative-driven setup, but it is very much like survival-type horror, where you are basically attempting to make your way through various dangerous situations and, yeah, really figure out what exactly is going on. Your guy has a bit of a troubled past. There's always a troubled past going on, and that one's, like, expanded upon even further when you get to the sequel, and it's a very cool, spooky, scary kind of setting, and I think they do a good job with basically The Evil Within. Just like they do a great job with Alice Madness Returns, which is actually like a double game if you really think about it, because you get both the experiences here in this package. It's kind of like a platforming, grimdark take on Alice in Wonderland. I think it's sort of become a bit of a staple for a lot of folks. Like, you see this particular aesthetic and style having a lot of resonance with people even years past. It's dark, grim, it's really, really quite messed up if you play it and you get kind of, into the story and everything like that. And then you're just in this messed up, even more messed up than usual take on Alice in Wonderland. And it works out quite well to be a very fun and well-developed game. A very much easy recommend for those to dive into and enjoy. So hopefully you found something spooky, different, and new to enjoy. well, basically some horror terror. Liking the video is great, subscribing is great as well.